Hello, and welcome to 121 Online for winter 2020. My name is Steve Krause. I'm the professor teaching this class, and I want to record this video just to sort of welcome you aboard and run through some of the details of the syllabus and how the course is organized and things like that. This is an unusual section of 121. We usually like to offer 121 in face-to-face settings because typically the class is for first-year students. And online classes tend to be kind of a mixed bag for students getting used to the idea of college. But we wanted to offer a section of it online as an experiment and also as a way of working with students who are taking classes at EMU just online, or juniors or sophomores or things like that. And so that's how you got here, and that's why I gave you permission to get into the class. I'm going to click over to the course materials, and you should follow along with that on your computer as well. And you can stop and start as you need to see, as you see fit. Okay, let's take a look at this. So this is the homepage for the class. You should be seeing something that looks pretty similar to this once you log into Canvas and get to the class. The first thing I want to point out is this space right here, which is the schedule for the class and everything like that. This is going to be the main navigation point for the class. You might, in previous classes, have clicked on assignments and discussions and things like that to get to different parts of the class. And you can do that here too, but this is the part where I'm going to keep everything current. And I'll come back to that in a second. But anyways, just to get started, to hit some highlights of the syllabus. This is who I am. My last name is Krause, but my family pronounces it Krause. It's a long story. The best way to get a hold of me is via email. I'm not even sure my phone works half the time, to tell you the truth. And these are my office hours where I'll be on campus. I also can meet electronically. I can meet at other times as well. This part is the general description of 121. 121 is one of the only classes that's required for all students coming to EMU, and it's the traditional first-year composition research-oriented course. It's divided up into these outcomes: rhetorical performance, research process, style conventions, multimodal design, and reflective interaction. Now, with any luck, by the time we get done with the semester, all of those things will make a little bit more sense. But in the meantime, go ahead and read through some of this stuff. In terms of reading materials, there won't be an assigned textbook this semester because I'll be using a textbook that I'm rewriting that I wrote, and we'll be reading a bunch of other things that will also be making reference to the online writing lab at Purdue, the Purdue OWL they call it. You will be using your EMU Google account extensively, and we'll come back to that. A second about online attendance and the online format of the class. Now, online classes, as you're probably all aware by this point, are different from face-to-face classes in a variety of different ways. And this online class may be different from some other ones that you've taken. First off, it's not a self-paced, self-study kind of class. We're going to be working together throughout the semester, collaborating and talking with each other and discussing readings and working on peer reviews and things like that. So this is not just something where you can just sign in, do the work, and go home. You have to interact with other people. The other thing is that this is a class in which there's a particular schedule to how some of the discussions and attendance things were going to work. So just the way this works is that I expect everyone to attend, as I say here, electronically and asynchronously during the course of the week. And what this will mean is that you're going to have to, at a very bare minimum, log into the class and participate sometime between Mondays and Wednesdays, Wednesdays and Fridays, ideally beginning on Monday and finishing on Wednesday, and beginning on a Wednesday and finishing on a Friday. If for some reason you don't do that, if for some reason you're gone for like a couple of weeks and things like that, I will count you virtually absent, and you could end up not being able to pass the class because of this. This is really important because, again, the thing is that an online class is the sort of thing where if you forget about it and you don't participate in it, you can't pass it. Two of the things I'll note here into this part. First off, you have to be reasonably computer savvy to participate in this class. I think that's true for everyone who's in here because I think you've all taken online classes before. But if you are the kind of person who's not very good with computers, taking an online class is a bad idea. And also, under no circumstances will I accept a lack of internet access internet or computer access is an excuse for not being able to get things done. Um, if the person whose computer you use moved out of the house, you are going to need to figure out a way to get another computer. And this is not a good time of the year, as I say here, to take a 2-week backcountry camping trip where you have no Wi-Fi access. Um, okay, so on to the next part, the online discussion part of the class. Um, most of the discussion that we'll be having about readings and most of the activities will take place in Canvas in the discussion forums. And I outlined some of the details of how this works here. But basically, all the discussions will begin on a Monday and end on a Wednesday, or begin on a Wednesday and end on a Friday, except for holidays and stuff. The reason why this is important is because if everybody just waited until the deadline, like say Wednesday, we couldn't have a discussion. We couldn't have any sort of interaction. Rather, we need to start on Monday. So think of Monday, sometime on Monday, as a deadline, and then the discussion follows. Okay. The way that I grade discussion, assuming that you do, the most important part, as I say here, is actually just doing it in a timely fashion and really engaging in conversation with people. So you don't want to merely say, I agree and I think Jonah is correct or something like that, but rather you want to have a discussion. But at the same time, these posts really don't need to be longer than they don't need to be certainly more than 150 words, and probably even less than that. Okay, so the way that I grade discussion, assuming that those things fall into place, is here. If you start on when the post is on time and you respond to more than one person in one classmate's post, you get an A. If you start late but you respond to more than one person's post, or you start on time and only respond to one person's post, you get a B. You get a C if you start late, only respond to one person's post, or you post on time but don't respond to anybody. D if your initial post is late, and F if you don't participate in a discussion. And then I average this out, and then the participation grade, which is worth 200 points, is divided in half. So half a semester is each worth 100 points. One last thing I'll mention. For these discussions that are graded, you won't be able to see what other people have said until you write something yourself. So you have to post first, and then you can see what other people's comments are. Okay. We will also be having a number of one-on-one conferences. We'll have a conference before each of the major writing projects. There are 3 of them. And we'll facilitate this either through Google Hangouts, through the Canvas conferencing software, which I haven't really played much with, so we'll see how that goes, by literally talking on the phone if we need to, or you could even come by and talk to me in person, because I'll have officers and time in Prairie Herald this semester. Peer review, very important part of the class. We'll be doing a lot of peer review discussion over every small part of each of your writing portfolio components, and I will be grading this because this is an important part of the discussion. You'll see how this works as we go along. The bulk of the class, of course, is the writing project portfolio. Now, it's a class in research writing, but it's probably not accurate to describe it as a class where you're going to write a quote-unquote research paper. And we'll talk about some of the reasons why for that as we get along the semester. But a better way of thinking of it is you'll be writing a series of small exercises that culminate or come together in a portfolio or 3 different portfolios: the Getting Started portfolio, the Academic Research portfolio, and the Research Transform portfolio. Now, everyone's going to pick a specific topic for their research and be working with a working thesis throughout the semester with their research. The overall theme for the course, in terms of what the research is going to be about, involves social media and the internet culture. Okay, so whatever you decide to end up writing about has to fit within that umbrella, and I will help you find a topic as something you'll be interested in, things like that. Obviously, it's a very large area, so my guess is that everyone's going to be able to find something that will fit in there. Okay, we'll start with the Getting Started portfolio, and this is a project in which we'll work on developing what's your topic going to be about, starting an annotated bibliography, dipping a little bit more specifically into one of your pieces of research in terms of a critique essay, and then you'll write a reflection about the process. The academic research portfolio is the largest part, and that's probably the part that most resembles a research project. You'll continue with an annotated bibliography. You'll do a couple of exercises that we'll talk about a little bit later, the antithesis exercise and the research inventory exercise. You'll write a longer sustained research-based essay. Again, I don't like the word research paper. We'll talk more about that as we go along, and then also reflection on that process. Finally, at the end, the Research Transform portfolio, which the idea of this project will be to make a poster presentation and to do something else with your research that represents it to an audience beyond the class. All of this work will follow the rules of MLA or APA style as the semester goes, as it seems most appropriate for you. And I'm against late work. So if you turn in any aspect of the portfolios late, I will drop you a half-letter grade for each of the late components. So for example, if with this one you're late on the short antithesis exercise and the short inventory exercise, that will drop your letter grade for the overall project by 1 letter. The only exception to this is if you let me know ahead of time, I usually will make some sort of deal with you. In order to pass the course, you must complete all parts of the portfolio regardless of your grade and any other work in the class. So in other words, if you decided to, for example, skip some academic research portfolio project, or you decided to, forget one of these major assignments like this, you won't get some sort of just passing C, you will end up failing. This brings us to the grading scale. I think that it kind of it's pretty clear in terms of like how it all adds up. I will tell you that my experience in this class has been, and I've been teaching this class for over 30 years. If you do everything that I ask you to do and you give it your best shot and you try and all that kind of stuff, you will get at least a C. Most students in this class end up getting some form of a B. If you're a good writer and if you're trying hard and you're really doing your research and you're taking the process seriously and you make improvements and all that kind of stuff, you can get an A. Fine print and services for you. Don't plagiarize. That's a bad idea. These various things about resources on campus and so forth, you can read those at your leisure. One thing I always like to point out when I'm going over this stuff for the course, this course summary part that is a feature of Canvas, I don't use this at all. So don't rely on this at all. There's no accuracy to that part of it whatsoever. Which brings me back to how the course is going to work. So here we are, the start of the class. You've already found this button, which is good. So one of the things you'll want to do, for example, after you introduce yourself to me and your peers, is you'll want to click on this link. This is an example of a graded discussion. So I will grade your comments on this. You're going to watch this video. And then as I outline some of the basics there about like what you want to say and how you want to say it, and then you will post your reply here. You'll note you only can see your reply until other people have, and you can't see other people's replies until they actually reply, until you write a reply. Then you'll want to go back to this post, later that day, maybe the next day, something like that, and read through other people's comments and engage them in conversation. If you want to get an A in this class for discussion, you want to be able to engage at least 2 more peers in conversation, and of course you can do that with more. Now, one last thing, just sort of an overall view of where we're at with the schedule for the semester. Each one of these things just says read and discuss. In terms of the assignments, these describes the actual assignments themselves, the readings and so forth. This is all pretty much set up here. The ones that are in blue like this, that have a link like that, those are obviously live discussions, and you'll get to this. So sometime, again, beginning on, say, January 13th, you'll click on this link, and you'll read and discuss these assignments, and you'll post your comment down there. Also, sometime on January 15th, we'll talk about the overall topic for the semester of social media. Again, I have some information here to read through and to discuss. Okay, and it goes like that through the semester. So basically, this means I expect people to finish all these things, starting on January 13th, which is a Monday, and finishing by January 15th, which is a Wednesday. Here, I expect people to start January 15th and finish, I guess it would be the January 17th, which would be the Friday. There's some exceptions to this. Martin Luther King Day, for example, we're not going to do anything with that. And there are a few places that are still need to be filled in terms of what we're actually going to be doing in the class, and I will be sure to give you those details as they come up. The first peer review for the topic proposal essay is January 29th. So one way to think of it is that by January 29th, you need to have the beginnings of a topic for your research project, and you need to finish this assignment. And we'll talk more about what that assignment is. There are several assignments in this first portfolio, as I've already noted. And the first Getting Started portfolio is due on February 19th. Then we have winter break, and we keep moving through other assignments in the second portfolio, and that portfolio will be due on March 30th. Then we work through some more assignments and talk about the last portfolio, the Research Transform portfolio, due on April 15th. Somewhere in here, we'll talk about revision opportunities, and those revisions will be due by the last day of class, which is April 20th. And there is no final for the class. The end of time is just basically when everything that must be turned in, if it's outstanding work for some reason, it has to be in no later than midnight Michigan time on April 21st, 2020. Okay, a lot of details there, but hopefully that gives you some idea of an overview of where we're going to be going this semester. Hopefully you have some questions. I'd be shocked and amazed if you didn't have any questions. So ask them. And the way you do that is just post in a comment down below there, and I'll try to answer. And if other people have answers, they can answer too. And read the other people's posts before you post your own question, because maybe all will have already answered whatever question you might have had. But let's get started. Welcome aboard. See you online.